In this video, I'm going to guide you through the method that you use when presented with a data set, and the aim is to work out how words are assigned to different word classes in the language. What evidence can you provide to demonstrate, for example, how a noun differs from a verb, and what characteristics adjectives have? We're going to look at a data set from Tsonga, spoken in South Africa. For this problem, you have been given a data set containing 9 sentences in Tsonga. You have also been given 3 sentences that are impossible or ungrammatical. The idea is that you will use these ungrammatical sentences as negative evidence. You'll see how that works when we get to it. We'll start by looking at the grammatical sentences. The problem asks you to do two things. List the noun roots, the adjective roots, and the verb roots. And what evidence can you give for classifying these roots as nouns, adjectives, and verbs, respectively? Our best first step in the analysis, when we are given a data set like this, is to look over the English translations very generally, to get an idea of what sort of information is included in the data set. We already know that we're being asked to list nouns, adjectives, and verbs. So obviously we're going to expect to find those in the data. The translation for item 1 is the boy plays, and for 2 it's the big boy works. When we look through the rest of the data, we can see that the verbs are always translate as intransitive verbs, not transitive verbs. The verbs in the translations are play, work, run, and eat. Sometimes the subject noun has an adjective modifying it, either the big boy or the small boy, and sometimes there's no adjective in the sentence. Looking through the data, we see that the subject in every sentence is boy, although sometimes it is singular boy and sometimes it is plural boys. So I guess there will probably only be one noun in our lexicon, but there could also be number marking. This could also give us somewhere to start. Usually when I advise how to approach problems like these, I say that the best thing to do is compare 2 items in the data for which there is only a single meaning difference. We would then expect that there will be a single difference in the Tsonga sentences and associate the difference in form with the difference in meaning. Notice that this approach applies whether we are looking at morphology, just the different forms of words, or looking at sentences or phrases with more than one word. So, for example, item 1 translates as the boy plays, and item 5 translates as the boy played, with the same subject and verb, but a difference between present tense and past tense. If we look at the Tsonga sentences, we see that the single difference in the sentences is between the words watlanga and watlangile. Both sentences start with mufana, so we can hypothesize that mufana is the bit that means the boy, and watlanga means plays, present tense, whereas watlangile means played, past tense. Notice that mufana consists of 2 morphemes. We've given you the morpheme boundaries for this problem, but we can't have much of an idea at this stage which bit of the word means what. For watlanga and watlangile, we can hypothesize that these are different forms of the verb play. But notice that these words consist of 3 morphemes. We can't guess yet which bit means play, what wa means, or what tlang means. What we can make a hypothesis about is that the difference in form is between a as a suffix and ile as a suffix on each word, which correlates with a difference in the translation between present tense and past tense. So, we can make a hypothesis and start to build our lexicon. We can propose that a is a suffix indicating present tense and ile is a suffix indicating past tense. We can't really make a hypothesis yet about whether it is wa or tlang that means play, and whether it is mu or fana that means boy. But that does lead me to something else that I wanted to say. Recall that I advised that usually when we approach problems like these, the best thing to do is compare two items in the data for which there is only a single meaning difference. But recall also that when we were comparing the English translations, I noted that the first sentences all translated with boy, singular, whereas the second lot of sentences translated with boys, plural, as the subject. Now, it did jump out at me when I first looked at the data that all of the first group of sentences in Tsonga started with mufana, whereas all the second lot started with vafana. This struck me straight away because I could see that they shared the form fana, but differed in what looks like a prefix mu on the first group and a prefix va on the second half of sentences. So this would in fact have been another way to start the analysis, to look at all the sentences that start with mufana and see what they share, in contrast with those that start with vafana. Think about something else as well while we're looking at this. Remember that I had worked out that all of the sentences have boy as the subject and that I'm only expecting there to be one noun in the data set? Well, if we divide off all the sentences that start with mufana from those that start with vafana, we see that this reflects the division between the sentences that have boy, singular, as subject, and those that have boys, plural, as subject. So what can we hypothesize and add to the lexicon? That fana is a noun that means boy, and that mu is a prefix that means singular, and va is a prefix that means plural. What can we work out next? At this point, we're not sure with the words watlanga and watlangile which bit of the word means play. But how about we now compare the boy plays with the boys play, where the difference is not in the tense of the verb, but in whether the subject is singular or plural. These are both present tense, so we would expect them both to have a as the present tense suffix, and that is what we have got. So what's the difference? Apart from the differences between mu prefix on the noun fana to indicate singular and va prefix to indicate plural, we also have a difference on the verb. Both have the form tlang, but we have wa when the subject is the boy and va when the subject is the boys. So we can make two more hypotheses from this and add forms to the lexicon. It looks like the verb play is tlang, and we can also add to the lexicon the third person singular prefix wa that goes on a verb when the subject is singular, and the third person plural prefix va that goes on the verb when the subject is plural. Now, knowing that verbs will have wa or va as a prefix depending on the subject, and a or ile as a suffix depending on the tense, we can use that knowledge to work out what the rest of the verb roots are. In other words, any form that has wa or va on it, and a or ile as a suffix, will be a verb. So we can use the translations to find out what the verbs are and put them in the lexicon. We now have all the verb roots in the lexicon. What is missing is the adjectives. We haven't paid any attention to those yet. This will be easier though, because we've already worked out what the verbs and nouns are, and only a few of the sentences have adjectives in them. The adjective must be the one word that we don't know anything about in each of the sentences that have three words in them. We have two sentences with small in them, and two sentences with the word big in them. The next bit isn't a one-step process, because the adjective doesn't just consist of one morpheme. Both of the sentences that translate with small have tsongo as the end bit, so we can easily tell that that is the bit that is the adjective small. But one has long at the beginning, and one has lava at the beginning. We'll need to work out what those bits mean. The two sentences that have big in the translation have in common the bit at the end, kulu. So that must be the part of the word that means big. Okay, what about the long and lava prefixes? Well, both kulu, big, and tsongo, small, have the same prefixes on them. So let's take another look at the translations to see what the difference is. Okay, the ones with long as a prefix on the adjective have a singular subject, the boy, whereas the ones with lava as a prefix have a plural subject, the boys. So it must be that adjectives, like nouns, are marked by number. Remember, we've told you that one of the characteristics of adjectives is that they may agree in number with the noun that they modify. So we can now add the last 4 morphemes to the lexicon. 2 adjectives, big and small, and 2 prefixes that mark number on adjectives. Okay, our lexicon is complete now, so we have answered the first part of the exercise that asked us to list the noun roots, adjectives, roots, and verb roots. The second part of the exercise asks us to give evidence for why we classify each root as a noun, adjective, or verb. We basically worked this out as we went along, but now we just need to articulate our working out, which gives our evidence. So, nouns are words which can take a prefix which indicates number, either mu to indicate singular or va to indicate plural. Adjectives are words which follow the noun that they modify. Adjectives take a prefix which agrees in number with the noun that it modifies, either long when modifying a singular noun or lava when modifying a plural noun. Verbs take a subject prefix. In the data that we only have third singular and third plural subjects, and these are marked by prefixes. Verbs also take a suffix which indicates tense, either a for present tense or ile for past tense. But wait a minute, we've only given positive evidence. We should now look at our impossible sentences to find some negative evidence. Why is this one impossible? We have said that tsonga, small, is an adjective. It is not a verb. We can have subject prefixes and tense suffixes on verbs, but we can't get them on adjectives. Why is this one impossible? We have said that whana, boy, is a noun. Like tsonga, it can't be a verb. That is, we can't have the subject prefixes and tense suffixes on nouns. Finally, for this last one, tir, work, is a verb. We have said that mu is a prefix that indicates number on nouns. Clearly, we can't take a verb and mark it with a number with the prefix mu. So, we've worked everything out now and just have to add our negative evidence to the evidence we used for classifying nouns. Nouns cannot be marked with a subject prefix or a tense suffix. Adjectives. Adjectives cannot be marked with a subject prefix or a tense suffix. And finally, verbs. Verbs cannot be marked with a number prefix. And that answers all parts of the problem.